This is the model answer video, question 4, and we've got the female reproductive system. Most people were fine with this, maybe some were giving an incorrect common words for R and incorrect for S. So P is the tube leading from the ovary down to the uterus, so that's the fallopian tube or oviduct. Q is the ovary itself. So people were fine with those two. R, the correct name we would give as a uterus. Womb is not quite good enough at A level. Or you could have suggested this was the endometrium wall, which was fine as well, or myometrium. And S, that's vagina. Other labels were given, but they might be, if you said cervix, then that's going to be further up. Name and describe. So 2 marks here, one for the name, one for the description. For what happens on day 14. Well, day 14 is the big peak in the middle of the menstrual cycle, and most people were able to identify that as ovulation. No need to say what happens, and fewer people were able to give the correct names for things. So instead of the egg being released, well, we're biologists, so we're going to say the correct name for what that egg is when it's been released, which is a secondary oocyte. And that's released from the ovary. If you just said released, then we'll go released from where? And you might not get the mark. Explain why it's important that the events in Q, so that's the ovary, and R, which is the uterus, why they are coordinated. And coordinated means the timings are they're relative to each other in a particular way. The main 2 marks relate to the uterus. There is a mark, and I'm not quite sure why it's a mark. The release of the secondary oocyte must be coordinated to allow fertilization to take place. Well, I wonder how does it know when fertilization is going to take place? So maybe someone can explain that to me. But I'm going to write that down. So the release of the secondary oocyte must be coordinated to allow fertilization to take place. I mean, I would suggest whenever it's released, there's a chance of it being fertilized. It might be coordinated with the hormones in the cycle and behaviour and so on. Anyway, the main 2 points are this uterus has got to be ready for the implantation of the fertilized oocyte, which is now called the blastocyst. So this blastocyst, this little ball of cells, needs to embed in the endometrium. So it's got to be, it's got to have the correct, blood supply and ready for that to nurture that blastocyst. So those are the other 2 points. So the lining of the uterus must be thick enough or vascular enough, or having the right blood supply, thick enough for implantation. And this is, so the blastocyst, and you have to say that, the blastocyst can be implanted. Lots of people saying all sorts of things like egg, well it's not an egg, it's fertilising, or just oocyte, but it's really, or even embryo. Well, embryo, we're not there yet with the embryo. And now we've got a graph, and this is a kit to test for pregnancy. The key bits of information here is this pregnancy test is claiming it can detect this elevated level of HCG produced by the blastocyst 4 days before menstruation. So there we are, 4 days. And this product, so we're using this graph, and then concentration of HCG. So we are going across from there. Each small square is 5, and so you are going, well, it's between 10 and 15, so I'm going to go for your, looks like halfway between, so 12.5. And then what's the units? Just going to copy the units, micromole cm cubed. But you could say anything from 11 to 14 there. Some research indicates that the levels of HCG might naturally increase with age in some women. So this increase in HCG is due to the pregnancy produced by the blastocyst. Well, if the woman herself is producing HCG, then it might reach this level. That gives the colour change on the test, even if she isn't pregnant. So this could give a false positive result because we are producing HCG. So can give a false positive result, or could indicate pregnancy when there is indeed no pregnancy. These levels of this hormone HCG could be used to estimate the time since conception. And there's some time categories there since conception. So conception was when fertilization occurred. And people did struggle with this. We need to explain how the product might be used to give a value for the time since conception. So these weeks here that are highlighted in the Help Me video, these are the values for the time since conception. How could we use this? Well, if the HCG is below threshold A, then so that's all, any of this area below threshold A, well, that's going to equal 1 to 2 weeks. So if below threshold A, then 1 to 2 weeks since conception. If it's between A and B, so this area here, well, that's then 2 to 3 weeks. So we need to say between A and B though, we kind of say above A, because that might give the third answer. So if between A and B, then 2 to 3 weeks. And then the final situation, if it's above B, then we're in this area here, 3+ weeks. So if above B, then 3+ weeks. Now you just need any two of those.